name is Susan K. Harris. I've been a Mark Twain scholar for 35 years, but I can't hold a candle to Hal Holbrook. Hal, I've always said that you are the best Mark Twain scholar among us. Unlike the rest of us, you have embodied Twain. And I don't mean that you just dress up to look like Clemens or learn how to drawl. I mean you've taken on Twain's own understanding of how other people respond to him. Now, I know that when you walk on stage for Mark Twain tonight, you've got a program in your head. But you listen to your audience, you sense how they're responding to you, and you're able to pivot when you realize they're not giving you what you want. Many years ago, I attended a talk with you in Shelley's hotel suite at an MLA, and I was fascinated by your talking about what you do and how you do it. I realized I was listening to a great scholar, a great actor, and a true humanitarian. Thank you, Hal. Thank you for everything you've given us. And happy birthday. I wish you many, many more.
Hi, Hal. This is Kevin McDonald. I wanted to wish you a happy number 94. I still remember the smell of the smoke coming down from the cigar at Elmira when you performed Mark Twain Tonight on stage. And I remember your performance in Kerrville, Texas. And I remember your performance in San Antonio and in Waco and in Austin. Donna and I loved those performances. We loved hanging out with you. I've got to tell you, Shakespeare may have created Hamlet, but it took Sir Laurence Olivier to bring Hamlet alive. And Sam Clemens may have created Mark Twain, but it took Sir Hal Holbrook to bring Mark Twain alive. I'll always remember what you told me about your favorite quote, not by Mark Twain, but by Huck Finn. You said, "It's lovely to live on a raft." And I think so too. So here's hoping that you stay on that raft at least to number 100. Good luck. Keep you in our hearts. Keep Mark Twain in our hearts. Hope we see you soon.
Holbrook, I send greetings to you and yours. I am Jeanne Reesman, professor of English at the University of Texas, San Antonio, and a relatively new Twain scholar, going on about 20 years now. Shelley was so kind as to invite me to share some special memories with you this Christmas. At the Twain Conference in 2013 in Elmira, I was able to see the documentary film about you and to hear your comments on stage, as well as meet you and get a signed copy of your book, Harold, the Boy Who Became Mark Twain. I knew your marvelous work as Twain on the stage and screen. It always seemed to me that he was there somehow in the spirit within you, with all of his tragic and comic intensity. Your definition of Twain as someone who told the truth resounded that evening as you told the story of seeing Senator Marco Rubio caught on camera by a reporter who asked him, "Senator, how old is the Earth? 6,000 years or 10 billion? Rubio hemmed and hawed, as you showed us, and claimed not to be an expert, and we laughed at your imitation. But then your fist came down again, harder on the table. Mark Twain told the truth. I will never forget that moment. I've always loved to teach Twain. In fact, my son was a little disturbed one time when he told me, "You sound like you think Huck Finn is a real person." And I realized that, yeah, I sort of do. But anyway, I'm now deeply into researching Twain, especially in my book, Mark Twain versus God, the story of a relationship. But it all started with you. The rector of our church, St. Mark's Episcopal in San Antonio, asked me to teach a few adult Sunday school classes. And I, balked and said, I'm not a Bible scholar. I think he knew that I was raised Presbyterian and so knew the Bible. And I also had served on the vestry, so he felt I was probably safe. He said to me, "You'll think of something." And I did. I decided to use Twain's problems with God. I thought that in confronting his problems, that all of us in Sunday school could confront ours. So I got 3 videos of you doing Mark Twain tonight and built each of the 3 classes around one of the videos. At that time, Letters from the Earth wasn't especially well known, and I thought I would have a ball with those old Episcopalian ladies. However, I also thought I might be kicked out of church. But to my great surprise, they loved it. They really loved it. They loved Twain. And I even reprised it 4 or 5 summers ago. So that experience reinforced my belief that many, many Americans first encountered Twain at all through you. Thank you for a lifetime of dedication to and fun with Mark Twain. In your portrayals, his full complexity of spirit emerges for all of us to share. Thank you, Hal.
Hello, Hal. Happy birthday to you. I'm Yoshi, a marketing scholar from Japan. I'm sending my congratulations to you from Tokyo. There's so many Japanese fans of your wonderful, wonderful performance of Mark Twain. This is my treasure, and I sometimes show this video in my class, and it is not easy for many Japanese students to fully understand English in this performance, but when they can, my students greatly enjoyed it and learned a lot from what you said as Mark Twain. I hope you'll have a wonderful year 2019. On behalf of many Mark Twain scholars in Japan, congratulations to you again. Bye bye. Sayonara.
Hi, Hal. This is David Sloan, one of your fellow Mark Twain scholars and lovers. I want to wish you a happy birthday and tell you that for 40 years you have been present with me every time I work on Mark Twain. When I first heard of your act, it was 1960 or thereabouts, and I missed your first appearance, but I got the record, Mark Twain Tonight, and heard you reading the story of the Marianne and the Begum of Bengal from the last Lotus Club speech. And that speech has informed all my work, and your rendering of it has been very meaningful to me. It is on the last page of my book, Mark Twain as a Literary Comedian. And sometimes I doubt my own work, but I just reread that story and my statement about it based on your feeling and interpretation and my experience of that. And all I can say is, I said, it's 40 years and it's been great all that time, and it still is. Warmest, warmest possible wishes, Dave Sloan.
Hal, this is John Bird of Winthrop University. I first saw you in 1967 playing Mark Twain. I was 13 years old. I remember it vividly, and it set my imagination on fire, as you've done for so many people. A very, very happy birthday to you, and many more.
Hi, Hal. This is Ben Click, professor of English at St. Mary's College of Maryland and current editor of the Mark Twain Annual. I first met you and Mark Twain when I was 8 years old while watching CBS's presentation of Mark Twain Tonight. This was my mother's doing, no doubt. She made sure my sister and I saw things on the television that would stay with us for a lifetime. For example, just months after your special, she set me down to watch Ray Charles on The Ed Sullivan Show. Well, over 50 years later, I still remember those two performances. Moreover, your performance of Jim Blaine's Grandfather's Ram lives on in my Twain seminar that I have taught since 2007, when I actually met you in person at the Elmira Conference, where I walked up the hill with you to the original site of the study at Quarry Farm, where the Twain family of scholars sang the old tunes, smoked cigars, drank whiskey, and listened to you tell of your meeting with Clara. But it was you, Hal, in Mark Twain Tonight, that has stayed with me a lifetime. You mesmerized an 8-year-old for 90 minutes that night. My mother, who turns 95 in January, knew genius when she saw it. It is why I still listen to Ray Charles, read and teach Mark Twain, and watch Hal Holbrook perform Mark Twain Tonight with my students. Thank you, Hal, for being such a wonderful Twain scholar and performer. And happy birthday, Hal.
My name is Matt Siebold, and I am Assistant Professor of American Literature and Mark Twain Studies at Elmira College. Sitting on hallowed ground, which you will no doubt recognize, inside the Mark Twain study. Both myself and the other members of the staff at the Center for Mark Twain Studies wanted to send our heartfelt birthday greetings and wish you well in this early stage of your retirement, as well as our continued appreciation and thanks for all you've done for Mark Twain over the years, including the many visits you've made here, and we hope a few more maybe on the horizon. You don't need to perform in order to come see us and spend time at Quarry Farm. So thank you, and on a personal note, I want to thank you for giving me a wider appreciation of Twain the performer, which I don't think I would have without having seen you, live and on tape, and being able to share that with my students and talk about it with other scholars. So once again, thank you. Happy birthday from the Center for Mark Twain Studies, and many, many more.
Hello, Mr. Holbrook. This is Selina Lai Henderson from Hong Kong. We met a couple years ago at a dinner that Shelley put together in a Mark Twain conference in Elmira. I just want to say how grateful I am to have access to your Mark Twain performances when I teach my students about Twain and Huck Finn at the University of Hong Kong. They had no idea what Twain was like until you brought him to life. I now teach at Duke University in China, and I'm continuing your legacy by showing my new students how you perform Twain over there. They love Mark Twain, but they love Twain even more when you are in him. Sanya Phai Lot. This is Cantonese for happy birthday. Many warm wishes to you and your family.
Hi, Hal. I was starting to say thank you to my second favorite, Mark Twain, but that sounds kind of cheesy, so I'll change that and just say thank you for your friendship over the years and for all the wonderful things that you've done for Mark Twain Studies.
Hi, Hal. Jocelyn and Giovanni here. We so love and appreciate you and want you to know that there is absolutely no one on the planet who can do what you do and have done what you have done and accomplished. We appreciate you, we love you, and we wish only the best for you. And I can't tell you how much we've missed just hearing you and seeing you. We love both you and Joyce, and we wish all the happiness and health, and we love you.
Hal, Jim Leonard at the Citadel in Charleston, South Carolina, wishing you a very happy birthday and congratulating you on your long and excellent career, the jewel of which is surely the many wonderful performances you've given of Mark Twain tonight. It has been and continues to be, through fond memories as well as the availability of video and audio versions, a delight to Mark Twain enthusiasts like me, including the many new Twain enthusiasts you've created by means of the attractive force of your Mark Twain recreations. Since you've shared the stage with Mark Twain on so many memorable occasions, I've chosen, as you can see, to appear with a familiar likeness of Twain himself. Mark Twain clearly tended to enjoy being front and center, so I had no doubt that he would be especially eager to be present for this tribute to the man who has done so much to keep his spirit alive and well in the 20th and 21st centuries, and thanks to those video and audio versions of your performances, no doubt in the centuries to come. Not bad for a guy who expressed some reluctance about entering even the 20th century. Mark Twain and I, and the community of Mark Twain scholars, salute you and thank you and wish you a most enjoyable retirement. We thank you for continuing to take time out from your busy career in films, TV series, etc., with resulting Tonys, Emmys, Academy Award nominations, Hall of Fame inductions, and so forth, to always return to your Mark Twain evocations. We also thank you for taking the time to visit with Mark Twain scholars at conferences from time to time, experiences that none of us will forget. I especially remember with great pleasure the night at a Mark Twain gathering in Elmira, New York, when we all stood in the darkness in a light rain at the site of Mark Twain's octagonal study, smoking cigars and singing, "Will the Circle Be Unbroken?" It doesn't get any better than that. Your presence at those times, as our friend Hal Holbrook, was a treat for us, and your presence as our other friend Mark Twain, in Mark Twain Tonight, remains a permanent treasure. And again, happy birthday and congratulations for all your sterling accomplishments.
Hello, Mr. Holbrook. This is Ann Ryan. I teach at Lemoyne College in Syracuse, New York. And I want to thank you for your unbelievable contributions to Mark Twain studies. Your performances on stage have completely changed the way in which many of us teach. In my case, the first time I saw you, I was a beginning instructor here at Lemoyne. And my plan to introduce students to Mark Twain was to dig into biography and literary theory. And I was going to have them read a lot of criticism. And then I saw you in performance. And I remembered that the best way to understand Mark Twain, the best way to appreciate his complexity and his humanity is to listen to his voice. And you helped me to remember always that Mark Twain was what James Fenimore Cooper was not, a word musician. I want to thank you for bringing that music to so many of us for so many years. And I hope that you enjoy great health and happiness in the coming years. I hope you someday make your way back to Syracuse, New York, just not in the winter time. And I hope you enjoy all these videos and that they remind you of what a treasure you are.
Hi, this is Hilton Obenzinger at Stanford. Well, happy birthday, first of all. But I want to thank you and to tell you a little bit of your effect that you had. You came to Stanford to perform, I think 15 to 20 years ago. And I had my students come to the show. And then afterwards, you gave a talk to my students as well as other English department students and drama department students. And they loved it. We had a little dinner or a luncheon afterwards. And I remember the way all the drama students clustered around you and, you gave them encouragement and advice and, other insights about what it means to be an actor. Then, the students, then you came again, actually, another time and had a similar lecture format. And students loved it. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that you were able to do that. Then, I would, in one of my adult classes, I would ask, what do you think of, what's your image of Mark Twain before the class? And several students would say, Hal Holbrook, that your Mark Twain Tonight had such an influence on people that they would associate Mark Twain with your performance forever. And it was really remarkable that way. And so you had an impact on me. I remember seeing that recording on TV when I was young. And always knew that you did an amazing job. And when you spoke about how you keep a log and how you keep track of, you were performing here 10 years earlier, so you knew what you did then, and what care, what work, and what knowledge, not just memorizing the passages, but what knowledge of Mark Twain and of our world today, of war, civil rights, etc., that you dealt with in your performances. So you're really a model of someone who is aware, doing a job worthy of any great performer. So happy birthday and many more years to come. Thanks a lot.
Hi, Hal. Mark here. With warmest birthday wishes from a very frigid Cleveland, your hometown. And, on this occasion of your birthday, it strikes me that birthdays are supposed to be about presents, gifts for the birthday boy. And all I can think about right now is all the tremendous gifts you've given us over the years. Starting for me personally with watching Mark Twain Tonight as a 10-year-old and that firing up a lifetime of interest and love for Mark Twain, but then all of the other wonderful performances on stage, on television, on movies that have so thrilled me over the years and enriched my life. And then finally, the greatest gift of all, the gift of your friendship. Thank you. And happy birthday from Sarah and Becky. And of course, me sending you a warm hug from cold Cleveland. Take care.
I'm Arnold Rampersad, and a retired professor of English at Stanford University, and someone who has written on Twain a little bit, tiny bit, but mainly on African American writers such as Langston Hughes and Ralph Ellison and and other people to whom Mark Twain meant a great deal. I remember the first time I ever saw Hal, as it was you, doing Mark Twain on stage. Mark Twain meant a tremendous amount to me as a West Indian, as a Caribbean person, growing up in the 50s and 60s, trying to find our way to discover our own language, the richness of our own language, in particular the richness of vernacular. So Mark Twain was a great hero. He was the soul, the incomparable, the Lincoln of our literature, even if a lot of us, didn't study him in schools. But to see you on stage, work your magic, appealed to me on so many dimensions, including the fact that I once tried to be an actor, and I could not imagine myself doing what you were doing up there so brilliantly on stage, bringing to life, absolutely to life, the greatest of American writers, which is the way I see Mark Twain, and bringing to life also his complexity, the variety, including matters such as race, very controversial when you were doing it, very controversial still today, but the deep, profound, rich humanity, cultural variety, cultural mastery of Mark Twain, what he accomplished, but then what you accomplished in making him come alive on stage, truly unbelievable, extraordinary, and I'm quite sure without precedent and without superior in American acting history and in the application of drama, the stage, to the American literary personality. So happy birthday to you, and very, very, very well done, as we would have said 50 years ago, under the spell of the British. Thank you.
I'm Shelley Fishkin. One of the things that I value most about Mark Twain tonight, Hal, is that you've managed to bring Mark Twain, the social critic, to generations of Americans who might otherwise have thought of him merely as a writer who was great at being funny. The humor is key, of course, and you've managed to evoke his humor with perfect pitch and truly remarkable timing. But for Twain and for you, humor often served to relax us, catch us with our guard down, somewhat unprepared for the serious points that followed. You brought to life words that Twain wrote but never spoke on stage, and words that remained unpublished at his death. Your performances brought out dimensions of Twain that were largely unfamiliar to many in your audiences. You managed to convey on stage for thousands and thousands of people across the US and around the world just what a devastating critic of racism Twain was, and what an astute critic of jingoism and imperialism, of anti-Semitism, of government corruption. I have never seen a more repugnant or raw portrayal of an unapologetic racist on stage than your truly disgusting Pap Finn. And I've never seen a more startling and provocative challenge to why we go to war than your war prayer, which you actually debuted at West Point at the height of the Vietnam War. That's incredible. Such wonderful chutzpah. In your shows, you managed to stitch together comments on war and jingoism that Twain made in dozens of different places and weave them into something powerful and fresh. You did the same for his comments on patriotism and other important topics. And you made sure that nobody left the theater without understanding on a visceral level that criticizing your country when you know it to be wrong is as American as Mark Twain. As you've brought Mark Twain alive for millions of people in the US and around the world, you've given him a bully pulpit from which to observe and criticize our own behavior in the 20th and 21st centuries, calling out our faults and our foibles, reminding us how often we fall short of what we might be, what we could be. You've allowed Mark Twain to help us get in touch with our better selves, to help us recognize how terribly we treat one another, how oblivious we are to the ways in which parochialism and ethnocentrism blind us to the humanity of others, how they allow us to make excuses for our failings that we shouldn't make. Your painstaking research, your enormous respect for Twain's words, and your brilliant, meticulously crafted delivery have earned you the gratitude of Twain scholars everywhere. I'd be hard-pressed to find anything I've written about Twain that has not been influenced on some profound level by Mark Twain tonight. I confess I was a shameless groupie when it came to Mark Twain tonight, sometimes building entire family vacations around the chance to see you in some city or other we might not have planned to go to otherwise. I was lucky enough to see your show in Austin and San Antonio, in New York, in San Francisco, Stanford and San Rafael, California, in Salem, Oregon, and Denver, Colorado. Your portrayals of Mark Twain were fresh and accurate and hilarious and caustic and inimitable. Your thoughtful, imaginative, deeply engaged and engaging interpretations of Twain's words over more than half a century before hundreds of thousands of people have given Twain the one thing he could not give himself, a vitality beyond the grave that no author has the right to expect. How fortunate for Mark Twain that you managed to imbibe his spirit and inhabit his persona as vividly and powerfully as you did, when you did. And how fortunate for all of us. Thank you, Hal, for being such an inspiration. Thank you for all of your guidance and encouragement, and most of all, for your friendship. Happy birthday, Hal. Happy 94th birthday, and many more.